a mistake that I see a lot of businesses make is when you ask them, who is your target customer, they give a really general answer, like anyone between the ages of 18 to 99. And that tells us virtually nothing about who they are.
Hello and welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Egan Heath. I'm the owner of Caravan Digital, and by the way, we just rebranded to Asymmetric, and I have a new business partner. So you heard it here first, folks. So today I have on an expert copywriter who knows how to do the right setup, how to do the right preparation, and really nail those Amazon listings and do excellent copywriting that sells your product. So you're going to want to listen up. This is Emma Schermer Tamir from Marketing by Emma. Emma, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on your rebrand.
Yeah, thank you. It's all very much in progress. Hopefully by the time this episode airs, it will be much more official looking. But right now we're scrambling and figuring things out and combining our teams and clients and Google Drives and all kinds of things. So stay tuned, folks.
I'm sure it's a little bit of a chaotic, but I'll also imagine way worth it. And, you know, I also, just to sort of kick this conversation off, I realize that you did not ask me to do this, but I think the fact that you are rebranding is such an interesting conversation to be had, because so often people look at their brand as something really static, and it's only at maybe these critical spots along the journey that they take an opportunity to reflect upon their brand and who they are and what they stand for and how they show up in the world. And one of my goals with this conversation today is also to get people really thinking about this as something that should be a regular part of all of our practices as business owners or business decision makers. And brand is something that really expands through every aspect of how we show up, be that with customer service or our product pages or our packaging or the systems that we choose and how we choose to run those systems. It's all an expression of who we are as a business. I might have gone a little bit ahead of myself with that, but
Thanks for saying that. That means a lot. You know, for me, I've been pushing hard on. We're about at 100 episodes here of What's Working in E-commerce. Most of the views and listens we get are actually on YouTube, and so that's a big question mark for me. Of everything's on the Caravan Digital YouTube channel right now. You know, do we move them to the Asymmetric Marketing channel in the future? Do we? I don't know. So if you're still seeing this on Caravan Digital, folks, I'm taking suggestions on how to solve this quandary. But also my problem, not yours. So there you go. Right on. So Emma, we were chatting before, and you talked about how you do all kinds of copywriting for e-commerce, but you really look at the Amazon listing. And I like what you said, I can tell you're a good copywriter because you specifically said, we don't just jump in and start writing product descriptions. There's a lot of work ahead of time before that happens. What is that work that marketers should do before they go to sit down and do some marketing writing?
So yes, it's exactly that. If you are just sitting down to type something out for almost everything, I would say that that's your first mistake. What is unique about Amazon in particular versus something like your own website, which is that on Amazon, you are showing up right alongside every single one of your competitors. So you have to have a very strong understanding of what your competitive landscape looks like and how you fit into that. And not only how you fit into that, but what you can do in order to help people choose you over all of the other options out there. And what a lot of people default to on Amazon specifically is competing on price or trying to just get as many reviews as they can. Both of those are problematic for different reasons. With reviews, there are a lot of things that you can do that can get you into trouble, that could threaten whether you're even able to sell on Amazon. So there are fewer and fewer legitimate means of being able to get reviews other than simply delivering a great product to as many people as you can. And then on the other side, obviously with price, if that's the only thing that you can compete on, then you're very vulnerable, because somebody can always come in and decide to take a loss until they drive you out of business. It isn't something that is very defensible. And so in order to be able to be successful on Amazon, particularly as fees are getting higher and ad costs are increasing, you don't want to be competing just to be the cheapest. So figuring out what you can do to carve out a niche for yourself and connect with customers that are going to want to choose you, not because you are the least expensive, but because you are really connecting with the thing that led them onto Amazon in the first place, is going to be huge. And even more so in this world of social commerce, where essentially everyone has the potential to be influencing their friends and their followers online, regardless of whether they're a big influencer or not. So every single sale that you have with someone is a potential to then have that be creating a ripple effect for even more sales. But none of that is going to happen if you can't even get yourself into the right hands. So some of that is a matter of course of product development, but a lot of that actually comes down to branding and positioning, and doesn't necessarily rely on having a unique product as much as a clear perspective and a clear set of customers that you are trying to sell to. So some examples of that might be dude wipes. They've really come up in the world. Are you familiar with dude wipes?
I won't even say how familiar I am with dude wipes.
They are really just doing a phenomenal job with, they're taking the most, not only basic of products, but it's not really a product that anybody's in the past been enthusiastic about talking about. And they really embrace that with humor and very bold marketing. And it is working for them.
It almost makes me think of, Emma, like when we look at old ads from the 1950s or 60s and sort of the Mad Men era, like how comical it is.
Yes.
And like how funny those are. And it's sort of like these guys have really adjusted. Brands like this and Purple Mattress and others, they know we're in an irreverent time. They know they can be informal and funny. And even sometimes in YouTube ads, like I'm hearing swears and things like that. Like it's a totally different time to be marketing. And so we want to be aware of who our audience is, like you said, but also just how do people talk and how do we talk as a brand? It's not as stuffy and formal as it used to be, right?
Absolutely. Or maybe it might be. And so some of that also requires you have a very clear sense of who your customers are and who your customers are not. Because in the same way that you and I might look at the Dude Wipes marketing and think this is brilliant and hilarious, and if I have a choice of 3 products, I'm going to grab theirs just because I really like and resonate with their brand. There are going to be other people that are disgusted by it, that it makes them just feel totally turned off, and like they would never ever want anybody to see that in their bathroom because they would be nervous about how that would reflect on them. And that's what really good branding does, is it draws a line in the sand and it says, here are the people that we're for, and here are also the people that we're not for, and we're okay with that.
Right. We're not for everybody. And that's the idea. That's the quote unquote risk we're taking by having a strategy and having a perspective, right?
Exactly. Another example of that would be, I don't know if you're familiar with Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Okay. Yeah.
They're a veteran-owned coffee company, and they really embrace the fact that they're very supportive of law enforcement and the military, and those are also very divisive topics in this day and age. And so all of their marketing and their branding is really leaning into that in a way that people who are looking for opportunities to be able to support these values, they're going to be enthusiastic about now being able to put their coffee money towards a company that aligns with those values.
Yeah.
And
the AK-47 espresso roast.
Yeah. They're not timid.
Yeah. It's not for those urban libs. I get it.
And so you see, and like
Yeah.
even emails suck, ours don't. It's just
Mm-hmm.
there's a confidence in both of these brands that I think is really at the heart of that, and what is required in order to create this bold kind of branding that allows these businesses to not only succeed in the short run of being able to convert better on a marketplace like Amazon, but also to be successful much broader across all the different channels that they're selling on, and become recognized throughout social media. And another phenomenon that we see on Amazon is that a lot of times when someone says, "Oh, hey, I really love that widget of yours," whatever it might be, and your response is, "Oh, thanks, I got it on Amazon." And that's terrible for a business. You don't want to just be that thing that somebody got on Amazon. You want to be your brand. You want to be recognizable and memorable in that way, so that if you're asking me about this, either because you see that I'm using it and you like it, or because you want my opinion on something, that I'm going to have enough of a strong impact and experience of what you're doing that it also sticks with me who you are.
That's beautifully put. I know no one wanted more details about this, but I have one more story, which is when we went to visit my father-in-law, who's an 80-year-old man, a hunter and a former construction company owner. He had dude wipes as well. And so it's, just cross-cultural. There you go. It's for every man who needs a dude wipe, I guess. So nice branding there.
The fact of the matter is that I think many people still have the sense of humor of 10-year-old boy.
That's
and
right.
so
More people than ever.
yeah, I mean, let's face it, I have that sense of humor.
Yeah.
It is lighthearted. It's kind of just finding a way of being able to not take ourselves so seriously. And that's refreshing for people.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
great.
is in stark contrast, as you mentioned, to a lot of the marketing that we've gotten used to over the years, which is very formal and stuffy and is unwilling to commit to anything. It's just this bland trying to be for everybody. And that worked at one point in time, but with the way that the marketplaces are changing and evolving, it's harder to be successful by taking that approach.
I was at some marketing conferences after the Colin Kaepernick thing that happened, and how did marketers talk about Nike's decision there on this culturally divisive issue, what have you? It is this polarized, divided sort of time, and so do brands try to straddle that and be for everybody? Do they pick a side, like the Black Rifle Coffee, right? Like, so that's fascinating. I want to go back to your process, if that's okay. I think
Absolutely.
you were just getting into it, and you were sort of hinting about, we're not even just writing about the product, we're writing about the person. And you've even, I think, elaborated some other reasons to sell besides price, is that this is a special thing. This says something about me as the consumer if I buy it. And I thought of Seth Godin, people like us do things like this.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about, how do you get to, you say customer persona or customer avatar? How do you learn about the customers and why they're buying or shopping for this product? Again, before you even write a blessed word about how do we describe the product on the Amazon listing.
Yeah, customer avatars are very valuable tools for anybody not familiar with that. It's essentially building out a full persona of who you imagine your customer to be. A mistake that I see a lot of businesses make is when you ask them, who is your target customer, they give a really general answer, like anyone between the ages of 18 to 99, and that tells us virtually nothing about who they are. And so you want to get very specific, and you might have a few avatars. You don't have to just hone in on only one customer. Maybe it's 3 customer avatars. But when you get really specific like that, it makes it much easier then to be able to talk more directly to your customer and to cut through that innate sort of desire to want to be a generalist with how you're writing things. A couple of other things that I highly encourage people to do, especially when you're selling on Amazon, but you can really do this for anything that you're doing, is to read reviews of your competitors. And that's going to give you a few things. One is it's going to give you insight into where your competitors are succeeding and also where they're failing. So then you can really be sure to call out those points. If you don't fail on that thing, then you want to let people know, because that could be, well, it clearly is important enough to people if it's showing up as a regular point in reviews. And simultaneously, if it's a good thing that people are saying, but perhaps it's not even reflected in the content of the product page, then that could be a great opportunity for you to make a call out, because when people are writing reviews, they're showing you, these were the things that I was making my decisions on. So they are giving you vital pieces of information that can really help you figure out how to talk about your product. And they're also using the language that is going to be most resonant with them. And so that's another thing that you can get from reviews, is understanding the actual word choices that people are using to talk about these products. Because if you're writing about eyeshadow, for example, you'll find that one way that people like to describe eyeshadow texture is that it's buttery. But I don't think, if you had no knowledge of eyeshadow texture, that probably wouldn't be the first inclination of word choice. You might think silky or smooth, but those are less commonly used terms to describe a formula that has that really rich, smooth texture when it glides on. And so reading reviews would be a way of being able to get that information. And then you can expand that also to doing research on social media and throughout the internet where customers that you're trying to target hang out. So Reddit, Quora, Facebook groups, TikTok, Instagram. I really almost treat this stage like assuming the role of an actor and trying to get into the mindset of a customer. And this will help you both from figuring out what type of vocabulary to use, but really also being able to connect it in with the mindsets and the emotions that customers are feeling behind the choices that they're making to purchase the product it is that you're selling. Because I think all probably know that we're not just motivated by facts and figures. We're motivated by emotions to make all the choices that we make as humans. Even though we like to think we are rational beings, we are far from it. And so this can be a great way to also understand what's going on behind the curtain. And if you have trouble feeling an immediate affinity for who your customers are, then this will also really help you get a sense for who they are as humans behind that. So even if you can't relate to why someone would care about a buttery soft eyeshadow, perhaps you do care about being able to feel confident and secure and energized to go into a new setting or to ask for that raise or for some of the reasons behind why somebody might be wearing eyeshadow to begin with.
Yeah, you're really getting way beyond those features. We're into the benefits and even to the meaning, right? Of what role does this play in their life? Then we're way beyond just here's the features of this product, right? Here's the specs.
Exactly. And so we engage in a lot of different emotions that are very motivating. Some are positive emotions and some are negative emotions. So you see that Dude Wipes is actually really playing into the positive emotion side of things through humor, which is a great tool for being able to establish connection and rapport with other people. So by using humor in the way that they are, that's what's really helping them cultivate a fandom and a following so that people are not just buying their product once and then moving on to the next thing, but they're deciding, no, we're a dude wipes household and these are the wipes that we're going to be buying for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and you don't go back. That's right. So quite a few great things in there, and I think you're just dropping so many, wisdom nuggets here. It's almost hard for us to keep up, so it's worth revisiting a few. I was going to say on that, reading the reviews, right? I first came across this. I think this might have been my first copywriting book I read. This is Copywriting Secrets by Jim Edwards. He's sort of affiliated with, Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels and stuff. And I've read this book a couple times, and it's just phenomenal. And I've got pages marked up all the way through it, basically. But yeah, when he's talking about the reviews, he's sort of like, yeah, for your own products and for the competitors' products, 5 stars is like, what did they love? 1 star is what did they hate? 3 stars is what was the mix, right? Like, what did they love? What did they hate? What did they love? And so I think that's just absolutely excellent.
Absolutely. And that's actually another place where AI can be really helpful. Obviously, in the whole content creation world, that's one of the places where AI has started to make some considerable inroads. It still has a long way to go on being able to create really solid copy or content, but it is a fantastic research tool. And when you're talking about something like reviewing the reviews, it's very time consuming, but it can also be difficult to do that pattern recognition when you're trying to wrap your mind around a massive amount of reviews. And so AI can actually be really helpful in synthesizing the key takeaways and also identifying some common patterns. Because of course you don't want to just look at one really intense negative review and make an assumption that every customer feels that way. But if you can identify that this is a common theme that's showing up in a lot of negative reviews, or even in positive reviews, people are mentioning this as a con that they're willing to overlook, then that is something that you want to be mindful of. And you may want to be mindful of it to then consider how you're going to be developing your product. But in the event that you can't, perhaps it's even worthwhile to make that call out up front. I'm really a strong believer in honest marketing, and particularly when it is so easy to make returns. It doesn't do you any favors. It is actually just a loss for your business if you are convincing somebody to buy your product that shouldn't be your customer. If they get it home and they have a bad experience, or they hate it, or it's not what they were looking for, then they're going to send it back. They're going to be the people that are more likely to leave a negative review. And so now not only have you incurred the cost of a negative review, but you've also earned yourself a potential hater, which I don't think any of us want. And so when you're thinking about who is your target customer, you want to be simultaneously thinking about who isn't your target customer. And so this bold marketing that we're talking about can be one way of drawing that line and making it clear, but it may also come down to sometimes more explicitly saying, this isn't for beginners. If you're selling something that's more complex piece of electronics to use, or this shouldn't be used if you have this kind of skin, or if you're selling some kind of skincare product that's not ideal for people with very dry skin, just to name a couple of.
Yeah, I noticed there's FAQs there. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Of people ask about the product, and sometimes the brand answers it themselves. They say, "No, this cord doesn't work at this adapter," or something like that. And it's good just to be straightforward about that. That's good.
Exactly, and maybe even if you're seeing a common theme over and over again. Let's say you're selling your product, you have a lot of people that are really happy, but you also have a group that aren't happy. Is there perhaps something that they are misunderstanding about how you've presented your product that you need to clarify in order to minimize the likelihood that people are misunderstanding your product or mistakenly buying this item when they shouldn't be? So maybe it's even that you sell 3 different versions, and you need to have a clearer comparison chart to help make sure that the right people are buying the right version for them. So there can be a lot of different ways that you do that depending upon what you're selling and what the issue is. But keeping in mind that people's attention spans are very short, and they're most likely jumping around on your product page. They're not reading it linearly. They're probably not reading the whole thing unless they're just one of those kinds of shoppers. And so how can you make sure to have those call outs of the important information easily accessible to also the very skim reading shoppers out there? So that might be using your imagery really strategically and how you incorporate copy into those images so that even people that are just scrolling through those product images are having all of their questions answered, are getting a clear sense of what the product is, what the benefits are, who you are as a brand. And so that's one of the ways that we also think about putting together a product page on Amazon is, yes, you have all of these different parts of the listing. And so you want them all to work together cohesively, but they should also be able to function independently, because that's might be how one particular customer is engaging with it.
Yeah, that's well put. And that kind of leads me into this question that people always ask me when I did SEO, which is, how do you then balance, the keywords we want to rank for with this quote unquote marketing speak, or, the copywriting that we're doing? How do you talk with clients that are concerned about how those integrate, or, how do we work the keywords into the copywriting versus here's what we sell and here's the reasons why? I wonder if you can talk about that.
Yeah, the SEO on Amazon is definitely its own beast that is the same and different. They have their own algorithms. So the A9 algorithm is what it's referred to as. And as far as all the very brilliant people that do tons and tons of research on this have determined, there are a multitude of factors that go into influencing how a product will rank. So, of course, part of that is you have to make sure that Amazon recognizes you as a product based on a variety of different search terms. And one of the ways of doing that is including the important keywords into both the front end as well as the back end of your listing. One of the things that I'm excited about with how AI is developing is that I think this will really begin to, in the not too distant future, shift how we need to be working with keywords, because as these machine learning algorithms are better and better capable of associating different phrases together, then we won't have to be so explicit with including this phrase, and this phrase. It will know instead in a much more synchronized way. So that's, I think, in the not too distant future, but for the time being, we do need to be more deliberate with including the keywords that we know we need into the copy. And fortunately, Amazon gives us a lot of places to do that. So even though the compulsion is always going to be more, and let's stuff as much as we possibly can, we should never go so far that we are distracting away from the readability or negatively affecting the customer's experience in looking at your product page. And so we definitely take a more is less approach by being really strategic about identifying what phrases we want to use in the content. So those are going to be high buying intent, ideally lower competition, very specific, and also a good medium long tail keyword that maybe has a few root keyword phrases embedded within it. So we're able to check a few boxes at once. I don't know if this is getting too technical for people out there, but essentially a long tail keyword phrase means more words, essentially. So 5 words, 7 words versus a shorter tail keyword phrase might be 1, 2, 3. And so when we have those longer phrases, they can sometimes be more complex to fit in, but those are most likely going to be more relevant to your product, more specific for customers that are truly looking to make a purchase rather than simply doing some window shopping or killing some time when they're bored. So an example of that might be skincare. That's a really general keyword, but anti-aging skincare for, or pardon me, anti-aging face mask for dry skin is much more specific. So now we have honed in on a particular product. We've honed in on a particular function of that product that we're looking for and a particular feature of the customer looking to buy that product. So that is going to have a much higher conversion potential than simply skincare or even anti-aging skincare, which is still could originate in a sale, but is less likely to.
Yeah, those are good examples. Thanks for providing those. I appreciate it. Anything else, Emma, that's part of your process or that you really see working? This is really about increasing conversion rates on your Amazon listings, and as you talk about on your website too, the PPC performance and the SEO performance and everything like that. Anything else that really seems to move the needle that you think people should know about?
I would say short and sweet, being as concise and impactful with your language is so important. Thinking about how you can really also combine text and imagery together is critical to success on any platform, but even more so on Amazon. And so, how can you be really deliberate with the text that you're using to connect with your customers in a meaningful way and communicate why people should choose you over the other tens or hundreds or thousands of products that they could be deciding between on Amazon. And you really need to keep asking yourself that question. And it's also not static. So let's say that you are doing a phenomenal job, and a year from now, you're not converting as well, you're falling in the ranks. Well, unfortunately, what happens is when you do a really good job, people take notice and you become a target. And so you may need to be changing things up, not because you did something wrong, but because you did them so right that now you have a lot of copycats. And so really constantly thinking from this perspective of what's next, how can I make sure to stay ahead, and how can I also adopt what's working from outside of Amazon to be successful on Amazon. That is a really big advantage that I think not enough brands are considering when they're trying to crack the Amazon code, is that they're trying to excel within Amazon using what they see people on Amazon doing. And a lot of times the really innovative things, the things that are resonating with customers now, are happening places like social media, like on TikTok, like really innovative D2C marketers on their own Shopify sites. And so being able to be thinking beyond just Amazon can be an incredible asset to figuring out how to stay on top.
It's a great tip of even see what's going on TikTok right now and how do we incorporate anything we're seeing or learning there. I love that. That's great. You also mentioned the sort of the second reading or the skimmers like me who are just kind of looking through quickly. I appreciate that. It almost strikes me that that's the opposite of when you're in school and you're writing papers, it's one person's job, your teacher, to read your 5-paragraph essay all the way through and critique you, right? And
Yes.
now it's like the opposite. It's like it's no one's job to read your copy. It's up to them whether they even want to finish it. Most of them are just going to skim it. And so the important things really have to stand out. We have to grab their attention quickly. And you've given us some great ideas of how to do that. So I really appreciate it. Emma, for people who are listening to this or seeing this and want to know more, where's a good place where they can find you? Who's a good person to reach out to you? And what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, if you'd like more content like this, I have a YouTube channel. It's at Marketing by Emma. Also, you can find us on our website at marketingbyemma.com. If you prefer to read your content, we have a blog where we go into a lot of depth with all of this. And of course, we're always happy to help out in any way we can. We also offer a free listing analysis or a free product page analysis. So if you're selling something and you want a second set of eyes on it, we're happy to take a look and provide you with some feedback about things that we think you may consider doing in order to improve the performance of your product page.
All right. Well, Emma Schermer Tamir, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Thank you.